appetite for snowmobiling. And really, he just wants to be a farm boy when he grows up. So he's working on that. And then one funny thing about Will is if you ever see two little cars, there's a red and a blue car, squished into one little parking space behind Dr. Hansen and Dr. Crane's office, that would be because Dr. Will so generously wanted to share his parking spot with Dr. Peter Crane. So he was really nice to his brother, even though I think it might have been Dr. Peter Crane's parking spot. Will was willing to share that with him. So, anyways, Will, it's your turn.
I got you first. By a few months, I just barely beat it, so I saved it for me, which is great. Okay, so I've been telling people about this presentation for a while. The first session, they know all about it, but this is truly a life-changing presentation. So, be ready. This is very, very exciting. Back fitness, ergonomics. Again, maybe the most important thing you do all day is think about this stuff. So, statistically speaking, Will versus clicker. Aaron versus clicker. Fine. Statistics, healthcare. Did you know you work in one of the most dangerous fields in the United States? Yes. Right up there with industrial warehouses, construction, transportation. Healthcare is honestly one of the most dangerous ones for workers. Workplace injuries. It's based on not just lifting, bumps, bruises, whatever. We also have infectious diseases. We belligerent patients, belligerent coworkers. We never know. But anyway, strains and sprains. This is something I really want to point out. Strains and sprains and overexertion make up over 25% of that number. So, again, you think about what you go through every day. How many times are you tempted to overdo something, or maybe sometimes that you have overdone something? So, I've been doing some independent research. Getting ready for this presentation. Go ahead and click the next slide. So, this workplace safety is paramount. I just have to say, workplace safety is paramount. This is a good example. This man has chosen to use a second block to hold up his car. Again, it's important to think ahead. Instead of just one, he has put two. I think that's the gas tank. Pretty sure, because I don't see it on this side of the car. So the gas tank's on that side. That is an arc welder working on it there. So again, workplace safety critical. Go to the next slide. Equipment is also essential. As you consider what is required for your task here at the hospital, make sure you have the necessary and proper equipment. I think that's a helmet. I mean that's the headlight. I think that's anyway, proper equipment. And so, while I've been doing my research, we've been in this big construction process with the hospital, and so I did a little bit of undercover work, just so you know. And the supervisors, did you know you have so much sway with your employees, the people who work with you? So much sway that it's important as supervisors to recognize that role you have. So click the next slide, please. So I snapped a picture of these two. Names have been changed to protect the innocent. So Todd and Larson were seen doing this. Again, supervisors have so much sway in what their employees do. Go to the next slide, please. This is maybe a better... I want to point out, though, they did take some precautionary measure. He did roll up his pant leg, so he had a better grip there. And then Aaron talked earlier about how we're so far ahead of schedule when it comes to the construction process. And I've discovered the reason why. We've gotten a little bit more help from some of our employees. Click the next slide. But that help has come at a cost. And so we have to be more careful as employees here at the hospital. We absolutely have to be more careful. Even if it's for the greater good, we have to be more careful. Click the next slide. All right, so here's an important question. Has anyone studied the phone tree at the hospital? Studied the phone tree. Who is the most important person at the hospital? Ourselves. Just point. Everyone point.
Ourselves.
Okay, we got a couple people pointing here. So you're the most important person. You're the most important. Penny is? Okay. Okay. And she is. We're all the most important people. Why? Why are you the most important person?
What you said because she said so.
Because she said so. Penny, why are you the most important person here?
Well, to me I am, because if I don't keep myself as being the most important person for myself, then I can't be for anybody else.
Right? You can't take care of the hospital, you can't take care of your family, those around you just can't take care of it. So, when it comes to ergonomics, job safety, work safety, you are the most important person. And if you're not spending time considering how to keep yourself safe and protected, you're in trouble. You're absolutely in trouble. So, ergonomics, it really, a science that came out of the Industrial Revolution especially, where we started trying to fit the job to the person and the person to the job, making sure it's done efficiently, effectively, and without injury. And you know, we're not excluded from that. Even though we work at a place where we take care of people who are hurt, we can get hurt too. So you've got to protect yourself. Back, shoulders, knees. Again, slips and falls. That's something every winter time we run into that. You gotta watch out. Just gotta watch out for that. So next slide, please. All right. So a little bit of Jack Sparrow here. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. Do you understand? So, seven. Let's see. How many of you, at any one given point, have known better, knew what I should have done, but I went ahead and did what I wanted to anyway? How many of you have done that? You're all guilty? Yeah, okay, good. Raise your hands. Good. You're all guilty. Some people just didn't think about it. I dare say our nursing staff, you'd say this like all the time. Just too busy. You're running. You're absolutely just sprinting from patient to patient. But, like Penny said, the most important person is you. If you're not taking care of you, no one else is going to look out for you like you do. So, problem is not the problem. Attitude about the problem. Next slide, please. So, when it comes to simple solutions, again, we're all about simple solutions here. There's a safety committee in the hospital, but really what I want you to do is evaluate and frequently reevaluate your work environment. Make sure that you have foreseen the problems, the issues that may come up, and plan for them. That's important. Dress and footwear, making sure you're attired properly for the job, warm enough, good shoes, whatever. Attired doll, it's really important. Chair height, work surfaces, planning ahead. Maybe this is one thing that each department could do, is just spend a few moments in your department and ask yourself, are there any high-risk activities you do? Or when was the last time someone almost got hurt doing, fill-in-the-blank activity? And make a plan to not have that happen. All right, next slide, please. All right, so we all know when it comes to lifting, let's see, statistically over 90% of the population will have some kind of back pain sometime. We're all high risk for back strains and sprains. So when it comes to backs, you just have to, again, plan ahead. Use the power lift. When you're training, we, either me or Bruce or Frankie's done it a time or two, but anyway, when it comes to lifting, it's not just a limbo lift, straight down with your legs and back up again. It just doesn't work that way. You do power lift. You stick your butt back straight, use your legs, back up again. You're using the big gluteal muscles, stand back up and lift. Here in the corner, a lot of people forget to use the one knee lift. Get down on one knee, carefully stand back up, keep the load very close to you. Lock and load, make sure your core is working well. Lock it down tight, then lift. Avoid awkward situations. In general, a very good idea. But make sure you keep the load in front of you. Make sure that the cords are out of the road. Make sure there's nothing in the road. Again, you've got to plan ahead. Most of these things can be avoided just with a little bit of planning ahead. And in twisting and bending, your toes have to point where your shoulders are pointing. Critical. Absolutely critical. So, next slide, please. Those of you who are desk jockeys think you may be exempt from workplace injury, but I dare say you're maybe at the highest risk for workplace injury. Spending a lot of time at the desk can be terrible. Shoulders, backs, knees, hips, pretty much everything. And so when it comes to getting proper ergonomics at your desk, and those of you who spend half your time at the desk, half your time walking around, again, you can make simple changes to make it right. Really, it's all rule of 90. You're trying to stack up everything on top of your butt, cross, back down again. Those of you who are vertically challenged, it is important to get something underneath your feet so you can have a straight, basically the 90-degree angle of your knees, elbows, hips. Chair adjustment, critical, screen height, a few simple books. One thing I didn't add here is drink plenty of water. You spend a lot of time at the desk, drink plenty of water. Because I'll get you up about every hour. Keep you from getting stiff. When you get stiff and sore, it just exacerbates the problem. If you gotta get this done, 12 hours later you finally stand back up and your back is you're just in trouble. So, plenty of water, plenty of water. Let's see, next slide please. When it comes to shoulders, a lot of people have shoulder troubles too, working. Most of this comes back to the awkward situation thing where you're lifting awkwardly out in front of you, a full load. I mean, how many times have you had, the patient is down, they're on the toilet, they're in the bathtub, whatever, you're trying to get them out, and you're at full extension, lifting fully. It's just bad for your shoulder. Again, it comes back to this, maybe the most important thing to take away from this. Don't try to be the superhero. Get some help. Get some help when you need it. It's important to take care of yourself. Let's see. So next slide. Just as a conclusion, those of you who like secondhand lines, defend yourself. It's critical. Head, shoulders back, knees and toes, everything. You've got to plan ahead. I mean, nothing really will compensate for that. Your lack of poor planning, you get in the middle of the situation, you're going to get hurt. So plan ahead. Stay safe, make necessary adjustments, know your limits, get the help, really get help. Those of you who need help, get help. Lots of help. Let's see, and the next slide, please. So, I was trying, are there any questions? Any questions? In the first session, no one had really any, dramatic questions about back pain or ergonomics. So maybe I was going to talk just briefly about awkward situations. It's really important to just plan ahead for awkward situations. And it's only awkward if you make it awkward, right? So plan ahead for
taught are. We also learned how safe they are. Safest maintenance guys, most caring maintenance guys. We're pretty lucky to have them. Okay, our next presenter is Jeff Kelsey. Many of you probably don't know him. He is walking down the side right now. You can come on up. He is in his 20th year of insurance, working in insurance. He, Derlin Taylor, that used to work with us, left on a mission, and so he bought him out of his agency. He works for Intermountain Insurance Services, and they have accounts all over the western states. So he says he travels almost every day, so seeing new places all the time. He has 5 kids, all but one are at home, and his first one just got married 2 weeks ago. So that's fun. It's exciting.
She's out. We got her out.
Start working on grandkids. I said, how many grandkids? And he says, none. I'm like, you're not really that old, I promise. I'm not So they can start working on grandkids, which is fun. He grew up in Salt Lake City, graduated from Weaver State University, which is where I graduated from. That's cool. And he lives in Layton. One of the things he loves is to go boating on our Bear Lake. So they own a place in Garden City and spend a lot of time up here in the summer. So we're glad to have you, Jeff. Turn the camera over to you.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys being here. Is it okay if I don't use the mic? Okay. Before I get rolling, any questions you guys have about health reform? What's a question? What's something that you thought, I wish I could ask this, and I don't know everything. but I've been asked a lot of questions. Anything you can think of? Was it lunch just a minute ago? You guys are sleepy? Nothing you can think of? Well, I've got all kinds of stuff to tell you about. All right, so let's roll. Let's get in it. First of all, a couple of things that I after she came and asked me about my bio, I wrote down a few more things. First thing is that we work with individual policies, small group policies, and large group policies, self-funded plans. We're appointed, really, we go out and get appointed with every carrier out there. So when we come into a group, the first thing we look at is what are the needs of the group? What are they looking for? What is it that they want to provide to their employees to help them so they can have a great health care plan? And so the first thing that we decided years ago was to get appointed with everybody. The other thing that I think is important for you guys to know is that every year your group comes up for renewal. And that's when the underwriters start to crunch the numbers and they say, okay, here's what we're going to do for this next year for health premiums. Because we're appointed with all the carriers, we put your group out to bid and we talk to all the different carriers and we say, okay, where would you come in at on a quote basis? And then we come in and share that with your folks so they can see exactly what Select Health or Blue Cross or Altius or any of those other carriers out there, what is the bid that they would give? And I know you guys have been with Regents for a lot of years. Well, the reason you have is that Regents always comes back and says, we want to keep this group's business, so we'll give the best offer going. Does that make sense? So I just want you to be aware that as we start to talk about premiums and cost and benefits and how all that lines up, that we don't just take the renewal from Regents and say, hey, here it is, and off and running, right? We take a look at it, we line it up against the competition, and then we always, as a courtesy, give them last look opportunity and say, hey, if you want to keep the business, you're going to have to get a little sharper on your pencil, right, and sharpen it up a little bit. So that's just something I thought you guys would want to know. Is health reform changing? Is it still changing? The law was passed in 2010, right? Is it still changing?
Yeah, it is.
Will it continue to change?
Yes.
It will. Okay, it's kind of it's a moving target a little bit. Seems like sometimes from our office we feel like we just conquer something, right? We just finally understand some portion of reform, and it changes, right? So the one that came out, and every morning, I belong to several association groups, and most of them are based out of the East Coast. So every morning when I roll out of bed, I have 4 or 5 emails that say, this is what's happened across the country, right? And it lists out all these articles. And just yesterday I rolled out of bed, and sure enough, they said the Cadillac tax, which you may not be aware, but it basically says in 2018, if your plan is such a rich plan, and your premiums are a certain level, if they exceed a certain level, then you, the employer group, have to pay a tax on the premium that exceeds that level, right? So they just passed in the Senate yesterday, well, it would have been the day before that, so Monday, but it reported to us yesterday. They passed a bill that said, hey, we're going to do away with the Cadillac tax. Now, it's not final yet. It still has some other revisions and some different things going on. But every day there's something new with it, right? Every day there's something that's being tweaked and modified. I hold these type of meetings, it seems like every couple of days, but it's more like probably once a week. But always somebody will ask me, is the bill going to be repealed? Anybody want to throw that out and give me your opinion? Oh, in the back, someone raised their hand.
I was hoping that it was and that you had good info on it.
You hope I was going to announce it today right here? So this is just my opinion. I do not believe the bill is going to be repealed. I believe certain components are going to be tweaked and modified as we go, but I do not believe the whole thing is just going to be thrown out. I know I'm upset some of you. I'm not happy to say it all, but that's the reality. You know, most of those components that are up and going, they're going to be here. What are some of the positives that you have experienced because of the ACA or Obamacare? What are some of the things that you think might be positive?
Medicaid expansion.
Medicaid expansion, okay. What else?
Pre-existing condition.
Pre-existing conditions, what happened to them? They're gone, right? Okay, what else? Anyone have dependent children? What happened to them? They can stay on the plan until they're age 26. Now, do they need to be a full-time student?
No.
Do they need to live at home?
No.
Can they be married?
Yes.
Okay. What about grandchildren? Are those covered? No. Okay.
Only if you have guardianship.
Yeah, there's certain circumstances that if you have guardianship or if you're the legal custodian, then there's some provisions that would allow for it. But in general, my oldest daughter, McCary, just got married 2 weeks ago. Whew, it was great. And if she were to get pregnant, that baby would not be covered under my policy, even though today she is. And she's 21, so she can stay on there until she turns age 26. Okay, what about her spouse?
No.
No. So Tad, like the guy, right? But I can't insure him. Now, can he stay on his parents?
Yes.
Could he get his own policy? Okay, right on, right on. Anything else you can think of that has been a positive with health reform? Guaranteed renewability of a policy, where in the past the carrier could say, hey, we don't want to accept you, or we don't want to renew you. And now they have to take on those responsibilities. Okay, so that can be a positive. Interesting, I wasn't planning on telling you this, but I will since I just thought of it. We met with a group, this was back in December, and the group had some unique scenarios going on. They had 500 or 600 employees, and we asked Blue Cross Blue Shield of Utah, their head underwriter, to come into this group and talk about some scenarios and unique plan designs they were looking at, and they said, yeah, we'll come in. Well, the interesting thing is they said, hey, we're going to provide a quote, and at renewal, we're going to provide a renewal on it, but if your loss ratio is bad, there's no limit on how high we'll take the premium. So I thought that was interesting that, yes, it's guaranteed renewability, but not how high the premiums can go, right? Kind of unique. Okay, so let's see. Modifications of the Affordable Care Act are going to continue. And as those take place, we just kind of roll with the punches. Now, in most cases, we see that some of these modifications are retroactive. Some of them are for future, right? But we still have to comply with those. What's a compliance item potentially that a group and an individual will be faced with at the end of this year? Any ideas? Did I give enough?
Fined if you don't carry insurance?
Fined if you don't carry insurance. Now, what is the penalty? The individual mandate is what she's talking about.
Oh, it goes way up this year.
So last year was like $95 for an individual.
Is it like 900 this next year? 800? Somewhere in there.
Okay, so for this next year, I got it right here. It's $325.
Oh, I was way high.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not. $325 for an individual. $975 for a family, or 2% of income, whichever is greater. So depending upon what your income is, that individual mandate is a tax or penalty that you'll be faced with. So that's when you file your taxes this next year. If you went without insurance, that is the penalty or the tax that you'll have to pay. Is it going to increase again next year?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to. It's going to be a little more than double next year.
For the price of?
For the individual
the
mandate penalty
Yeah.
is going to go up again next year. And then every year after that, they're going to modify it and tweak it. Yes, it's probably going to always go up, but it's going to be based on the cost of living increase. Okay. Let's talk about your plan. Let's talk about it just for a few minutes. What is with your plan? What did your plan have to do to be a qualified plan? Any ideas? Did it just automatically was just, hey, it was good to go, we're set? Had to meet certain parameters, and you may not even know that. So part of Obamacare said that your plan, in order to be a qualified plan, had to meet the bronze level status or better. So what is a bronze level plan? Any ideas?
The higher you pay, the better coverage you get. You start with the low, isn't it bronze, silver, gold, platinum?
Get up here.
No. I only know because I paid, my husband and I paid through, we really paid a lot of money last year before I got insurance through the hospital. For the two of us, we paid $890 a month, just for the two of us.
Yeah. So little side note, individual policies are not cheap, just so you're aware. So a bronze level plan, to give you an example of a bronze level plan, we have groups that have gone that direction, and you'd be faced with about a $3,000 or $4,000 deductible for a single, double or even triple that for a family, and then it would have 60-40 co-insurance. In most cases, it would not have any prescription benefit. Everything would be applied towards the deductible, and there would be no office visit copay or no office visit benefit. Everything, again, would apply towards the copay. So that's what you would consider a bronze level plan. So your plan that you folks have is much better than a bronze level plan. So the first area of criteria to have a qualified plan, you've already met. Okay? What's the second item from the employer group that they needed to do to meet the affordability clause? Any ideas? What do you pay in premiums?
Has to be 9.5% or less.
Okay, will you say that out loud?
It has to be 9.5% or less of your yearly income.
Okay,
your premium.
So when the law was first passed, the government said, we're going to look at household income. So if you heard that years ago that they're going to look at household income, well then they came back and said, wait a minute, it's going to be way too hard to figure out what household income is. And it'd be almost next to impossible for an employer group to know what your household income was. So then they modified that portion of the bill and they said, as long as the employer doesn't charge more than 9.5% for single coverage of the individual's income they earn at their own employer, it's an affordable type plan. Okay? So your plan meets that. So those are the main two criteria that in order to have a qualified plan, it needed to be affordable, and it also had to meet the benefit level of bronze level or better. Okay? Okay. What other questions might you have? I kind of gave the questions that I hear every day. Those are the ones that people say to me every day is, hey, you know, does our plan, does it meet affordability? Is it bronze level or better? The individual market is an area that's available. So maybe let's just talk about that just for 1 minute. I'm going to ask you a question, so think of this through. If you were working full-time here at the hospital and you were offered the medical plan because you've met full-time employment, but you wanted to waive that, would you still be responsible for the individual mandate?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's say that you decided to go to the marketplace. They also call it the exchange, the marketplace. It's all the same, right? The state of Idaho has their own. If any of you are from Utah, they have their own type setup. But if you went to the marketplace, could you qualify for a subsidy? I stumped this gal in front.
With the insurance through the hospital?
If you did not take the insurance through the hospital and went to the marketplace, could you still qualify for a subsidy?
No.
Why?
Because you're on it. It's like an
Because
incentive.
your plan here met the two criteria, which is the affordability section and the coverage section. So sometimes we hear of individuals saying, hey, if I didn't want to take the insurance through my employer, even though it was offered, and it met those two criteria, could I still go to the marketplace and pick up a plan? You could pick up a plan, but you can't qualify for a subsidy. And right now, that subsidy is based on your honor, but how would they circle back and figure that out? When you file your taxes, right? So this next year, your employer will, well, there's a couple things they're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to file a form into the IRS with each of you listed in that document saying that they provided you with a plan that met the 2 criteria. And then you're gonna file in, and you'll actually take a document you'll get this next year, and you'll attach that with your W-2 and any other tax filing information, and that will say whether or not you had coverage so that you can not have to pay the individual mandate. Does that make sense how that works? Okay, so this next year, around the end of January, you'll get a W-2 from your employer, plus I believe it's a 1095-C. Now I'm saying that out loud, it may be a 1095-B, but either way, you're going to get a form that says that you had qualified coverage and which months you had coverage for, and that will help make sure that you don't have to pay the individual mandate. Okay? Okay, what other questions? I think I've kind of used my time in all the good ones, right? Anything else? One last item. If at any point during the year you would like assistance on any claim item, on a eligibility item, on anything that goes on in the plan, obviously Regents has a customer service department. It's on the backhand side of your ID card. You can call in there. But being in the business now for 20 years, we know that on a regular occasion, there's going to be somebody in every group that says, hey, I just don't think, however it played out, I just don't feel like it was correct, or it wasn't the way I thought, or the way I wanted, right? You can call us and we will help you. We have people, I mean, I travel most every day, not every day, but most every day. But we have a fully staffed office, and you can call in and say, hey, I'm with Bear Lake Memorial, and I've got this question, and I just don't think this claim was paid right, or I'm not sure that this was handled correctly, and I'm telling you right now, we will help you. It doesn't mean that we always come back with the perfect answer that you wanted, right? But we'll find out exactly what's going on and help you out. So don't ever feel like, hey, I'm just left to myself, nobody's going to help me. We will help you figure out, was the claim applied towards deductible or copay, or was it excluded for a certain reason, or was the claim just filed incorrectly and it needs to be corrected and refiled? I mean, all those things can take place, right? So if at any time you feel like, hey, I need some help, we're here to help. And I know you have a great HR folks. Tricia, she's awesome, but we'll help you as well, okay? Any last questions before I wrap up? Yes?
Does the individual mandate automatically apply if there's lapses in coverage for the year, or is it prorated?
It is prorated. So if you went without, if you had a gap of coverage, then they do look at some prorating that's on the scale. Okay, good question. I wish I had like a little treat or, I don't know, something to throw at you. I got here. Watch out. Is that covered under workers' comp? If that is right. Okay, anything else? Well, thanks. Thanks for having me up, and just to let you know, we're here.